Morning everybody, let's try and make this as least cringeworthy as possible. I'm going to try and check in with you as much as I can. I've set the work for you this week, there's about 6 to 7 hours worth of work there. And one of the things that you will be reading up on is learning theory of attachment. Learning theory is classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning you'll know from Pavlov, ringing bells, all that kind of stuff. And operant conditioning is positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. So, just going to talk you through a little bit with classical conditioning for attachment. This is what we currently know. So, an unconditioned stimulus brings about an unconditioned response, which basically means that would cause that to happen regardless. Then you introduce a neutral stimulus, which shouldn't, in theory, make that happen unless this is there. Okay? If you repeat that several times, then the conditioned stimulus, which was your neutral, has now created a response it never used to before. So, some of you are certainly going to recognise this as being cupboard love theory. Okay? Food is an unconditioned stimulus, which brings about pleasure. People feel good when they eat. If you introduce a neutral stimulus, that would be the attachment figure, which the likes of Bobby would assume is your mother, because your mother is the one who feeds you. So now you have mother and food. Pair that together, it still brings about pleasure, but remember that's unconditioned because you've still got food there. If you repeat that several times, and there's science which suggests that in your first year you feed a baby about 2,000 times, so you certainly repeat it. The conditioned stimulus of your attachment figure, so let's say mum, now brings about pleasure. So that's what the theory behind how you form an attachment is. That's with classical conditioning. Now, at the point that you guys are up to, you've already studied Harlow's monkeys, so you should understand, that food isn't actually one of the main drivers for forming an attachment. But that's classical conditioning. What about operant conditioning? Well, operant conditioning, you would assume, is something like negative reinforcement. Now, if you remember, negative reinforcement is a behaviour is reinforced that you do behaviour to avoid something bad or to avoid a negative stimulus. Well, if you felt really hungry, that's a negative stimulus. How do you get away from feeling really hungry? You feed yourself. And who is it that feeds you? It's your mum. So essentially what we're saying is, if they continually do that behaviour of reaching out for mum, negative reinforcement would assume that they're doing that to get rid of their hunger. Okay? So you can try and explain why they formed an attachment with their mum, both on food and all to do with the cupboard love theories. Now obviously what you guys are going to have to do is write that up, but you're also going to need to evaluate it, and when you evaluate it, you're certainly going to be talking about the likes of Harlow and how a lot of other theories now suggest that you have multiple attachments. So the Glaswegian infant study, for instance, suggests that you can have as many as 5 attachments by the age of about 9 months. But you do need to evaluate it. You could potentially get a 12-mark essay question that says something like, discuss learning theory as an explanation of attachment. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a prompt. Some of the other things that you need to be looking at is the maternal deprivation hypothesis. Again, you do need to have a look at what short-term deprivation refers to. So there's a predictable sequence then of protest, despair and detachment. And you can have a look at the research of the likes of Robertson and Bowlby and make up your minds whether or not that predictable sequence does happen. Okay? Next week, you're going to be looking at the strange situation and Mary Ainsworth, her use of the strange situation, and then looking at that cross-culturally. So do I get the same attachment styles across other parts of the world? It's then my intention to try and give you a catchphrase. So I'll go through the catchphrase on the video for you, and then obviously you can pause it and you can see what it is, and I'll reveal the answer, and hopefully that'll be a little bit of fun. And then at the end of every topic, we always do an audit. So I'll give you the audit, and then what I'll do is I'll film me going through the answers to the audit. So again, once you've done that, you can check it and you can see whether or not we've got all the same things. So keep going with it. We don't know how long it's going to be for, and we'll all have to adapt to new ways of working, but I do really want to keep a bit of a face-to-face thing so that you can still see that I am still here for you guys and working, and etc, etc. Okay, take care, I'll speak to you soon. Email me if you've got any questions at all, or you just, again, want to scream into nowhere because you can't be doing with this. Okay, thanks guys, bye.